So now I think you're live with this image now on everything, hopefully. So it's showing that static image, and then all you have to do is change it to your camera, which I'll show you in a second. Let me make sure it's working.
Yeah, sure, cool. What's up?
Yeah, turn the mic off.
Hey guys, we'll be there soon. We're just getting ourselves set up here.
So the YouTube is live. So it's just showing that picture. So that's
cool.
You see, I think I saw that it's the same thing for Facebook. That's your
For anybody who's waiting for me to go on right now, we decided that for upcoming episodes, we're going to play some really funny quarantine-style music. So if you guys want, comment below with what songs you think you should play. I'm thinking The End of the World as We Know It by REM could be great, or The Police, Don't Stand So Close to Me. I'll be live in just 1 second, you guys.
So when you're ready, just click this, click down to that, and it'll turn. Yes.
This is funny. Let's see. Hello, everybody out there. How are you doing today? If you saw my little tech setup here, you would probably crack up. My laptop is on a giant bowl, and my phone for my IGTV friends, my Instagram Live friends, hello, is resting on my laptop. Thank you so much for joining me again today. So if we haven't met, welcome to Quarantine Kitchen. I figured let's make the most of this current situation. We're all at home. My name is Julie Hardigan. I am currently quarantined in Hoboken, New Jersey. And I'm here, I'm a healthy cooking expert and a chef, and I just want to jump on here a couple of times a week to give you guys some really easy, doable cooking things you can make for yourself at home with pantry staples or kind of whatever the heck you have in the house. So I'm going live here right now on Instagram at CookingWJulie, so you guys can follow me there. On YouTube, if you guys like my cooking video and kind of like the things that I'm showing you here, you can check out my YouTube channel too. It's YouTube CookingWJulie. And hi to everybody in my Facebook group and on my Facebook page. That one is also Cooking W Julie, and my Facebook group is Where Happy Meets Healthy, because that's my whole vibe. So, okay, what we're going to do today, obviously I'm not truly cooking because I'm sitting at a table in my Hoboken kitchen. I'm going to be talking you through ingredients to make soup with pretty much, I promise you, anything you have on hand. So soup is one of those things that I find some people feel like they need to follow a really specific recipe for. But to be honest, you can totally go and do a pantry raid And by the way, I was like laughing about that before because I said panty raid by accident. So don't know where my head was at. But you can make soup with seriously just about anything you have in the house. You can do this recipe or this technique I'm going to show you in an Instant Pot, in a large soup pot. If you're cooking for 1 or 2, just grab a small saucepan like this, any size that works for you. And the reason why soups are so great, there's a reason why all our grandmas and everyone's grandma love to make soup. It's an awesome way to use up scraps that you have in the house. You can make it in so many different varieties and different flavors, so you're really not going to get bored. And they freeze generally really, really well. So what I'm going to do now, for those of you who haven't met me before, I'm an engineer turned chef. So I'm going to talk you through kind of a little workflow step by step. So if you want to grab a pen maybe, or you can rewatch this too. I post all of these lives to my Instagram, my YouTube, and my Facebook page and Facebook group afterwards. Also, I'm so excited. I was telling everyone who joined me right away how silly my little tech setup is here. I'm going to go grab my camera equipment, my video equipment. I do produce my YouTube show using actual legit equipment, not just a laptop and a phone. So hopefully for Friday's Quarantine Kitchen, when I go live, I'll be a little bit more legit. The sound will be better, the lighting will be better, and we're going to be in party mode on Friday, you guys, because we deserve it. So I'm going to show you guys how to make some kind of really fun recipe on Friday. So for now, Quarantine Kitchen Soup Edition. So when you're going to start a soup, start your pan with either some olive oil or cooking spray. For my WW friends out there, I write a lot of recipes for Weight Watchers, so I have some WW friends maybe tuning in. Most soup recipes are going to start with a mix of carrot, celery, and onion. If you don't have any one of these in particular right now, where you're cooking from and where you're living, don't worry about it. Onion, I would say, is a pretty important one, and a good idea for you to do is when you do have extra onions, get in the habit of chopping them up and throwing them in the freezer in a baggie, because when you're putting vegetables in a soup, you can totally use something right out of the freezer. It'll be fine. Another idea for you, when you're putting this by the way, the French term, the chefy term is mirepoix, and the proper proportion, but don't sweat it, this is a simple soup, is 1 part carrot, 1 part celery, 2 parts onion. Now here's the easy hack way to put together a mirepoix for yourself. I just did this now. I have plenty of knife skills, whatever you guys. I'm quarantined, I want to keep it easy. Ta-da! If you guys have a KitchenAid, all you need to do is throw your carrot, your celery, and your onion in your KitchenAid. I'm not going to pulse it and like jar you with the loud noise, but you seriously pulse it like 3 times like this, and it's ready to go, and you just dump it in your pot. Get your oil started, kind of like medium low. What you want to do is sweat your vegetables, which means you're literally going to make them sweat and release some water. Now, if you wanted to give your soup a little bit of a kick, you could also add some jalapeno pepper or some green pepper. When you're doing like Southern cooking, like in New Orleans and such, they call it the Holy Trinity. They add, I think they leave out the carrot. People from New Orleans and from the South can jump on and correct me. But if you're doing like a Tex Mex style soup or a chili vibe soup, you could totally just throw in a whole jalapeno. By the way, cooking tip, if you want to add a lot of heat, use the seeds from the jalapeno too. Just throw it in the food processor, pulse it up, and add that in. It's going to give it a great kick. So we've got our soup started with that. Next thing, once that's sweat, you've let it sweat for like 5 or 6 minutes or so. Give it a couple of stirs. Now you're going to add, these are 2 of my go-tos that I add in different like styles of soup. Garlic is a natural. So you can use the jarred garlic if you have to. If you have fresh, fresh is always best with garlic. It's going to give you the best flavor. So you can add some garlic there. Another one that I love to add, if you're doing any kind of like Asian style soup, which is a fun one to just kind of take your like taste buds in a different direction from maybe what you have been eating. Or if you want to do different veggie soups, and I'll give you ideas for those, you could add some minced ginger here too. And if you need to, guys, we're doing quarantine cooking here. You can totally stick with using dried if that's all you have, if you don't have fresh. So I'm going to put those aside. So now you add those to your mirepoix, your veggies that you got started. And for those of you just joining, we're doing a Quarantine Kitchen Make Soup with Anything episode. I want to free you guys up from recipes. And by the way, I want you guys all to show me your soup after you follow this. It made me so happy the other day. I did an episode on how to put together a refrigerated grain bowl, and several people messaged me and sent me pictures of their grain bowls, and they looked so pretty. So definitely like tag me at CookingWJulie on Instagram, or post it into my Facebook group if you guys make any of these things so I can see what you're making. Okay, so we started our veggies. We've got our garlic and our ginger. Now we can add some dried spices and dried herbs. Now, I'm not usually a big fan of dried herbs, to be very honest with you. I always prefer cooking with fresh, but oh my gosh, this is totally the time when they're going to be the heroes in our cooking, right? Because I haven't really been able to get very many fresh herbs. I'm trying to stay the heck out of the supermarket. So any you do have, pull out, and here are some options and things you can add. If you're doing, this is a dried spice. If you're doing like a Tex Mex or a chili kind of a vibe, you could add some chili powder. You could add some, these are just some of my favorites. You could add some dried cumin. That would be great in any kind of Tex Mex. Cumin's also awesome in Asian or like Indian vibe kind of curry dishes. So cumin's always a good one to keep. It works with a lot of different cuisines, more often than you might even think. You could also add things like dried Italian seasoning, dried basil, ground sage, dried thyme, whatever. So you're cooking that in with your sauteed veggies that you've been sweating, a little bit of olive oil, your garlic or your ginger. Okay, next up. I like to add, you can keep this a vegetarian soup if you want, but soup is a great way to use up, again, like little bits, and you don't have to use a ton of protein in it. So that's why it was always such a great one for all our grandmas to make, because it wasn't an expensive thing to cook for a lot of people. So here's a great idea for you. I love keeping like chicken sausage of all different flavors and types in my freezer. They keep forever. They're really sealed very well. And if you're going to put it into the soup, all you would need to do is slice it. It's even easier to slice when it's frozen. That's a little hack trick for you guys. It doesn't like get mushy on you. You can slice that up and you can add it into the veggies that you got started in your soup pot. Another idea, if this was raw, like raw turkey, Italian turkey sausage, you could also slice it frozen. That's a little Italian hack. It makes it a lot easier. It won't fall apart. But make sure you cook that through and let it brown. And the reason you're doing that, so here's what I want you guys to think about when you're making a soup. What you're really doing is layering flavor. So we started with the olive oil, then we added our veggies, right? Our mirepoix, our onion, carrot, and celery, maybe a pepper for a kick and a little heat. Then we're adding some garlic and ginger to take it in a little bit more flavor. It's layering on. Now we're going to add, if you choose to, a nice meaty flavor with some chicken sausage, some Italian sausage. You guys, you're on quarantine. You can use breakfast sausage. You can use leftover ham that you might have bought. You can use Canadian bacon. You can use regular bacon. Just dice it up. So you're going to cook that in there until that is cooked through and getting nice and browned. And the reason you're doing that, it's going to infuse your whole soup with a nice smoky, meaty flavor without needing to use a ton of meat in it. So you're keeping it really light and lean, but super flavorful. And for my veggie and vegan friends out there, you could add some chopped up mushroom here too. So mushroom, the reason why mushroom has that umami vibe, if you haven't heard that one, the reason why so many veggie burgers were made of portobello mushroom is because it mimics that meat flavor. So it's a great thing to have mushrooms. You can mince those up, add those into your sauteed veggies, and it's going to give your whole soup kind of a meaty, hearty vibe without needing to use a ton of meat. That's just a little trick for you. So you can also, if you want at this point, if you have other raw veggies that you want to use up, and like I said, this is a great way to do like a kitchen sink, raid the pantry, raid the fridge soup. You can pull out anything from eggplant, little bits that you have of that, zucchini, chopped up peppers, extra chopped up carrots, if you have those. If you have diced butternut squash, diced sweet potato, diced regular potato, it's a great time to add those. And you want to get those started, sauteing them in the mirepoix, the olive oil, and the spices just to get them started cooking and add some flavor to them. So now it's a soup. We need to add some liquid, right? Some broth. So hopefully when you guys went scrambling for ingredients, I wish I could have messaged everyone out there and said, grab a lot of broth, grab a lot of broth. So you can use veggie stock or veggie broth, chicken broth, chicken, why can't I say broth all of a sudden? Beef broth, chicken broth. Here's a good one if you guys are hitting the supermarket or ordering. I actually just got some of this. My mom used to use these little bouillon cubes. I think those were super high in sodium back when I was a kid. I haven't really cooked with those in a long time, but this one's kind of a cool one. I've used it and it's organic and it's a lot healthier. It's called Better Than Bouillon. You just use a scoop of that and some water. So you're going to fill your pot. You've sauteed your veggies. You've added any optional meat. Now you're going to have lots of nice broth in there. And you can make this to whatever amount you want. You can make it to serve 1 or 2, or you can make it to serve 8 or 10. The soup freezes really well. But once you've got your broth going, here are some ideas for you. I'm all about layering the flavor and making this really delicious and boosting the flavor a lot. So some things that you can add while your broth is being brought up to a simmer. I've got some really sad wilted herbs in the back of my fridge from 2 or 3 weeks ago, the last time I went to a supermarket. I've got some thyme here, some parsley. Tip for you, you can actually throw it in whole. You don't need to chop it up. what's going to happen after it simmers, you'll find the stems. You can just pull those out with some tongs. It's no big deal. The stems actually have great flavor too, believe it or not. So when you're cooking, you can use delicate stems from parsley and delicate stems from cilantro, and they're going to add a lot of flavor to your soup or your stew or whatever, and it's totally fine to cook with. Another one I always love to use, and you might have these from some cooking project, bay leaves. This is their time to come out and play for sure. You want to, power just flashed. You want to add this to your broth and let it simmer in. It's going to add a nice herbal note. It's a good one too if you don't have any fresh herbs. But again, you could also add some dried herbs here. Here's a favorite Italian grandma trick of mine that I absolutely love to do, you guys. Save the rinds from your Parmesan and your Pecorino cheese. And I'm telling you why. You can take these, slice them off, wrap them in some plastic wrap or wax paper, keep them in the freezer, and you can throw one of these babies in with your simmering broth. It's going to add tons of great, like, umami-rich depth of flavor to your soup or your stew. And it's a great way to be less wasteful. And, I think one kind of cool, this is such a, like, crazy moment in all of our lives, but two things I think that are kind of really cool. One, everyone's at home cooking a lot more, and I really would love to help everyone come out of this feeling more confident in the kitchen, and also like freeing you up from feeling like you have to follow a recipe all the time. Like, let's just wing it. I'm going to teach you guys how you'll feel really confident and able to wing things too. And we're also becoming, I think, less wasteful. And food waste has always been a thing, but if there's ever been a time to use up every little scrap to avoid the supermarket, it's now. So keep your Parmesan rinds, add those into the soup. For everyone just joining me, I'm going to be posting these. The live started at 5. We're doing a pantry raid, make an awesome soup with anything, literally anything you have in your house right now. So you might want to go back and rewatch because we're about a third of the way into it, but you can stay tuned and I'll tell you, now we're going to flavor our soup. We basically have a pot simmering right now with some base veggies and spices and herbs in it and some broth. And now we're really going to have some fun with making different kinds of soup. So, ideas for you. I like soups with a little bits of tomato in it or tomato base, like a pasta fazool. I posted one of those on my Instagram. That's my favorite childhood soup from my grandma. If you guys want to check it out, it's at CookingWJulie. And to do that, you could just add a little bit of tomato puree. You could add diced fresh tomatoes if you're lucky enough to have some of those. You could add canned diced tomatoes. You could just use some straight up marinara or pizza sauce, just a little bit. And you don't want to make it turn into a tomato, like a pot of marinara. You're just adding a little bit of tomato to infuse the broth with that kind of Italian vibe, that tomato vibe. And that's great in Italian soups and stews and also in Tex Mex ones. Also in like Indian curries too. You could put some diced tomatoes. Those are really yummy. In a pinch, honestly guys, I've done this. You could use some leftover salsa. So those little scraps of salsa you've got because eating the chips and salsa the other night with everybody hanging out. You can use up your salsa by putting it in your soup. It would be amazing in some kind of chili vibe soup or Tex-Mex soup. So, okay, made that choice if you want to put some optional tomatoes in. Now some fun ideas for you. I literally went digging through my own pantry and found some fun things. So I figured I would just show you some ideas that I had for ways I could take this soup in a lot of different directions so you won't get bored. You could add beans are a natural, right? If you bought a bunch of canned beans, this is also a great time to use them. So canned are great because all you need to do is warm them through in the soup. So it's a really great way to have it be done quickly. If you wanted to do dried beans, I do have some of those too. So you could do this soup in an Instant Pot if you wanted to, if you guys have it, because it's got that saute function at the beginning, then you're bringing it up to a simmer. Just go online or check out your Instant Pot manual because I don't want to try to like rattle through like all 10 varieties of dried beans. Each one takes a different amount of time in an Instant Pot. And to be honest, even on a stovetop, dried beans vary widely. It depends on how old they are. There's a lot of different factors. So if you can, I'm using the canned here. If you don't mind waiting a while, you could soak your beans overnight and then you could add them and simmer them. Lentils are a great one for everyone who's a lentil soup fan. They tend to cook a lot quicker. The red lentils and green lentils and yellow, like a dal for Indian type soups, those cook really, really quickly. In fact, they'll get really mushy. But if you're using like straight up brown lentils, which are the typical ones, they take about 30 minutes to simmer. In an Instant Pot, they take like 5 minutes. So those are options for you there too. You could add chickpeas here. You could add kidney beans here. You could be adding white beans here, like I was saying, in the pasta fazool. It's something that I love. And by the way, everyone who's here streaming, watching me on YouTube, but for those of you from Facebook and Instagram, I'm actually posting a new episode of my YouTube show tomorrow, I think. And freakishly, I shot it a few months ago without realizing the situation we'd all be in, and it's actually a pantry raid making like a lentil soup. So if you guys want to check it out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Cooking W Julie. Just hit the red bar and you guys can see that one. So, okay, that was an idea to get your bean soup going. Other ideas to make it kind of a veggie soup vibe, which would be really fun. If you guys have some canned pumpkin around, you could do ginger, cumin, cinnamon, all of those warm spices that you like in the fall with some chicken broth or veggie broth, and you could just go ahead and add some canned pumpkin to get it nice and thick and rich if you wanted to. You could add, let's see, what else did I find? I really went hunting. I dug around for quite a while. I had some, I don't know why I had this. I think I was panic shopping like everyone else 2 or 3 weeks ago in Hoboken here. I grabbed some frozen butternut squash. I happen to love fall flavors, and there was no squash to be found in Hoboken. You could just add this. The nice thing about frozen veggies, you guys, just throw it right in the simmering broth and just let it go. You don't have to defrost it and cook it first. This is totally a one-pot meal. So those are ideas for you. If you were doing more of like a Tex Mex kind of a soup, you could add some corn. You want to make a straight up like alphabet vegetable soup for the kids. You could add peas and carrots. You could add like frozen peas, whatever veggies you have in your freezer. Another one, if you guys have something like cauliflower, you could add cauliflower and make like a really nice like Indian spiced cauliflower stew, which would be yummy with like chickpeas and diced tomato. Then let's see what else. Okay, so we've got all of these yummy things bubbling and boiling. We added some lean, or some like, not lean, excuse me, some like salty-ish kind of meats at the beginning to give it a lot of flavor, like chicken sausage or bacon or breakfast sausage, pancetta, whatever you have. An idea here, if you have leftover bits of cooked meat, like chicken breasts from something you cooked the other night, or diced pork, or anything like that, you could add it at the end of the cooking. Shrimp too. If you have any shrimp in the freezer that are frozen or pre-cooked, you can add those right at the end. You really just need to heat them through. So a mistake a lot of people make that I don't want you guys to make is adding those too early in the cooking process, and then they dry out by the time the soup is done. So you really just need to add those towards the end. Okay, another thing that you could add, and these I have 2 different methods you could do. If you wanted to add some kind of a grain like rice or pasta, or if you're making an Asian soup, which I think would be really fun, you could add like rice noodles or soba noodles. 2 different ways. You could certainly just add them straight to the simmering broth and time it with what the package said. Just make sure that it doesn't dry out too much, because say the rice might take quite a while. Just check your package and see how long it's saying it's going to cook for the pasta, the rice, or the noodles. Another idea, though, especially if you want to freeze the soup later, if you're making extras, is just to go ahead and take out another pot and cook these on the side and have them done and add them at the end to each individual portion. Because sometimes when you go to freeze pasta in a soup, it might come out a little bit funny. Another reason why, you would be shocked, and I've made this mistake myself, you guys, I don't want you to do it. If you add the pasta and you don't have enough of your broth left, it's going to soak it all up, and you could just add water then in a pinch if you have to, if you wanted to keep it all in one pot. But sometimes I like to keep that on the side and add it a little bit later. So that's a tip for you there. Let's see. Okay, we're almost done, believe it or not. You guys can do this, right? Everyone's going to give me a thumbs up for people that are going to go ahead and raid their pantry and their fridge and their freezer and are going to make soup over the next few days. I want to see if you guys are digging this. Give me some thumbs up. Also, let me know where you're from. And by the way, leave comments below too for things that you'd like me to cover in upcoming episodes of Quarantine Kitchen. I'm going to be doing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. So everybody tune in, and Fridays are going to be a happy hour vibe because, oh my gosh, do we deserve it, you guys. We're going to do something really fun. Okay, so now your soup everything is cooked through, and it's time to give it a taste and see if you like it. So here's a tip for you. If you want to thicken your soup even more, you can rock the heat up really, really high. I would do that before you add any cooked protein, though, because what we don't want is for our chicken or our shrimp or any protein we're adding at the end to dry out. So what you could do is really, really rock the heat up high to reduce the liquid in the soup to get it a lot thicker. That's one approach. Other ways to season your soup, I usually actually wait until the very end to adjust the seasoning of the salt, because if you're going to boil that liquid down, it can get a little too salty. So it's good to get it to the thickness and the like soup development, if you will, to the point where you want it before you finish with the salt. But here are some fun add-ins to do at the end. if you did like an Italian kind of a vibe soup, or even if you did like the pumpkin soup or a butternut squash soup or something with cauliflower, you could add some grated pecorino or parmesan at the end. That's what I do with my grandma's pasta fazool recipe. It actually helps thicken the soup a little bit and gives it that yummy, rich, believe it or not, Parmesan has an umami kind of a vibe to it too. So it's a great way to use up little bits of grated cheese that you might have. If you guys saw how I'm set up over here, I've got things on a chair next to me. It's pretty funny. Another idea to make a really healthy, creamy sort of a soup without using heavy cream. I'm all for heavy cream if you're into that, but if you want to keep this light and healthy, here's one of my favorite hacks. I actually put a little bit of Greek yogurt in at the end and just puree it in and whisk it in. This is a great tool to get to, you guys. Ta-da! Who's got one of these babies? Immersion blender. You guys have these? I love these. They are fantastic for soups, and I'm going to show you why. If you guys have never cooked with one of these, we've brought our soup all the way to the end. You can thicken it by just putting this into the pot. Hold on, I've got a pot here too. You bring the blender right to your pot and you just puree. You don't have to puree it all the way through. Some people don't like puree soups. They think it's like baby food or whatnot. I like pureed like butternut squash. Certain soups I do like that way. But if you just want to thicken something, this will puree some of the veggies. It'll puree some of the beans, and you can get the thickness that you want out of your soup. So if you can, go ahead. Amazon is still delivering. They're only like $25. They don't take up a lot of room. I absolutely love those. Immersion blender. All right. 2 other ideas to season the end of your soup. And then I'm also here to take questions. So you guys, I want you to be thinking about what you would like to know and what you would like me to cover and things like that. This is going to surprise many of you maybe, but I always finish my soups with a hit of acidity. By acidity, I mean lemon, lime, a little tiny bit of vinegar. It boosts and lifts the flavor of your soup up. What you're going for is a balance of flavors. So if you're making any soup or any kind of like sauce or stew and it just tastes kind of flat and you're like, I put enough salt in here, I have the right spices in there, all of that is going right, try adding a little tiny bit of acidity. So lemon would go in honestly kind of just about anything. I love lime in Mexican, Tex Mex, chili, in Asian dishes, Asian soups, like noodle soups, in what other ones? In Indian, if you were doing some kind of like a lentil curry soup with chickpeas and cauliflower. Are you guys getting the vibe of this? How you can just start from the beginning and layer the flavors and use whatever ingredients you want to take this soup in so many different directions. Other great finishers. When I make Italian soups, you can also add like a tiny bit of balsamic vinegar. That's going to brighten everything up and taste really yummy. And then finally, if you were doing some kind of Asian noodle soup, which would be so fun, you could add some like chili garlic paste or some hot sauce, some sambal oelek. That's actually what I have here. So those are just some of my favorite ways to finish off a soup. So you guys, I just took you through from beginning to end, kind of like a really basic hack workflow to do a pantry rate soup with anything you have in the house. And I'd love to hear everybody chime in with any questions that you might have or any comments you have. So be sure to tune in on Monday. I posted it on my YouTube channel at Cooking W Julie, in my Facebook group, which is Where Happy Meets Healthy, and on Instagram at Cooking W Julie. On Monday, I covered how to make DIY grain bowls with, again, whatever the heck it is you have on the house for quarantine cooking. Today, we just went through a nice workflow for making soup with anything that you have. And like I said, on Friday, I'm going Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. On Friday at 5, I'm going to do some kind of fun happy hour recipe for us using things that you probably have on hand. But I'm here. I want to see if anybody has any questions for things that they could do with their soup. Okay, cool. So my friend Susan was asking, what about ground meat? If you have any kind of ground meat left over, how could I add that to my soup? So what I would do, if you were doing like a Mexican kind of a soup where you started out with your onion, your carrot, your celery, and your pepper, and then you went with your salsa being added in, and then some broth and some tomatoes and some corn, you could totally, at the beginning when you put this in, saute some ground turkey or ground beef in there and give it kind of like a chili vibe. So that would definitely work. Another idea for you guys, if you have any little leftover bits of ground meat, you can make yourself little mini meatballs, which would be so cute. I mean, that's kind of fun, especially if you're cooking for kids, right? Or for yourself. I feel like we all need to be entertained right now and do things to make ourselves happy. You could make some small mini meatballs with whatever seasonings you want, breadcrumbs or not, and just drop those into the soup at the end to simmer, and that would be really, really fun. Another idea, if you wanted, I talked about adding the pasta and the rice and the grains at the end. You could also add frozen tortellini at the end, which would be so yummy, or frozen mini ravioli. Just think about things that cook really quickly in broth. Let's see. My daughter's mother-in-law would add lemon. Someone's talking about how they finished with lemon. Yes. So it's my friend Annette. Hello. So you guys, lemon at the end of a soup, honestly, try it the next time you make chicken soup. Or honestly, if you're using some canned soup, and I hear you, we're all going to be like hitting the pantry and eating some random things right now. Why not boost the flavor of like the Progresso or Campbell's or whatever brand of canned soup you have? Go ahead and add and finish it with a little lemon juice. Hit it with some hot sauce. Hit it with some parm. Like, just because we're on quarantine doesn't mean that we have to eat lame, sad food. I want you guys to have as good an experience with food as you can and enjoy flavors and have some fun. So does anybody else have any questions about other things that you could add to your soup or do to your soup? So, okay, chicken breast. Somebody was asking what to do with chicken breast if you have that at home. So now that we've gone all the way through our process of making a soup and it's simmering, here's what I would do with chicken breast. You can add those totally whole right into the simmering broth and just let them cook. It's like basically like you're poaching them, and the liquid is super flavorful. Keep an eye on how firm they feel. It's going to depend on how thick. I don't want to give you an exact time, but you'll know if you take a pair of tongs and try to kind of break the chicken, it'll break, and you can see that it's white all the way through. You can take the chicken out, put it on a plate to cool, and then use 2 forks to shred it and add it back into your soup. I actually have a really awesome recipe for an ancho chicken and black bean chili soup that is WW 0 points on a lot of the plans. I do a lot of recipes for them. Very healthy soup. It's on my website, cookingwjulie.com, and I did a YouTube video for it too, so check that out. It's on YouTube, Cooking W Julie. But that's just a great way to use up, again, little bits of extra chicken breast. You could use turkey. By the way, someone asked last week in my live about using up deli meats, and we talked at the beginning of the soup about you can just dice up some deli ham and saute it in the beginning with your veggies to give it kind of that smoky flavor. If you had leftover turkey breast, there is no reason why you couldn't shred that up and just add that to the end of your soup if you wanted to make like a turkey noodle vegetable soup. That would be a really awesome way to use things like that up too. So I think I'm gonna be ending now because I don't want to keep you guys. I'm sure you have a lot going on. We've been hanging out for half an hour. I love getting to hang out with you all, and I really appreciate you all joining me. So be sure to follow me in all those different places, or let friends know if they need some quarantine kitchen cooking ideas. And I'm gonna say goodbye now, but I'll post these afterwards. So if you just joined, you can watch it all the way through. And I will see you guys again. I'm Julie in Hoboken. It's at Cooking W Julie on Instagram. My YouTube channel with lots of different episodes and great recipes is YouTube, Cooking W Julie, and hi to all my friends in my Facebook group too and on my Facebook page. So I'll see you guys Friday at 5 EST. I hope you have an awesome rest of the week, and I'm going to give you kisses now. Bye.
That's about 12 seconds or so behind on the screen. Oh, Facebook was even slower.